Good evening and welcome back to Monday Night Live. You're in for a big treat as well because we'll be rehashing the last 3 videos and bring it all back together as a big epidemic, and you do not want to miss it. Of course, we're here with our co-worker, Fourth Class Joe Bush and
Good
Joe.
to see you, Max.
Thank you for coming again. We'll be talking about the Czech Republic and whether it's smart or not to invest, and we'll be bringing all the information in tonight, and you will get an answer.
Excited, Max.
I'm very excited, Joe. So please, come with us to this graph right here. This is the Czech Republic GDP. So as you can see, this graph ranges from 2006 to 2016. So we got a 10-year range here. Obviously, you can see the biggest decline right here is in 2008, and we all know why that happened. The housing market crash in the U.S. Now that affected everyone. Am I right, Joe?
I would say so, Max. The big problems right there.
I would say this decrease here right now in 2016 where we're at, the general trend is down. Now, Joe, can you elaborate why the general trend is down with the Czech Republic?
I can, Max. Now, what I see with this general downward trend is that there's definitely some negatives there, but overall I see it as more of a positive. If you look at our graph around here, we're probably above where we should be really producing. We're having an inflationary gap at that point. Now at this point, we have to decrease and we have to lose jobs. Now, while people don't like that, in the end it's good for the economy and most people will then get better jobs in the end. Now that's what I see us doing here. At this point, what we got going on is maybe people losing some jobs, but I predict it going back up, not at a super high rate, but at a nice shallow, sustainable rate that people will have better jobs with more pay.
So you think people are losing jobs, but not necessarily becoming unemployed, but becoming unemployed like cyclical unemployment to where they're unemployed for a minute and then they get a better job to a better income.
That's
the
why
quality of life is just better overall.
I would say that, Max. Now, that relates to our next graph right here. GDP per capita. Now you see, Max.
Now how does this go with GDP itself, with per capita?
Great question, Max. Now, if you look at this, this is the GDP per person in the Czech Republic. Now, if we look here, there's a similar trend, 2008 sharp decrease. Once again, we all know about that. But what I really want to point out is this right here, this nice big increase. This is why I think that negative GDP that we got going on the other graph is okay, because it's going up. And what does that mean, Max?
Quality of life is going up. This is just what I talked about with regular GDP. GDP per capita is per person. So quality of life going up is because people are getting better jobs, better income. Quality of life is just overall better.
Now that's going to be really good. Now that's another big thing in the economy here. If we're increasing the amount of money that we have in the economy, this is going to be good if they all have different stuff. Now, if they're able to buy more goods and stuff, this means that over time they're going to be able to invest more and it's going to be sustainable. This rate also isn't crazy low. If you look at this rate, that's almost completely straight up and down. It's skyrocketing, just like it was in the United States. But look what happened. We dropped down. Look at this angle, nice and shallow. It's going to continue to probably go up. Now eventually we'll plateau, I wouldn't say, but that's not a bad thing when it plateaus. That just means that we've hit a point of economic stability rather than an economic boom, because we don't want a boom and bust, we want constants. Now, let's take it over to our man Chris Shields.
Joe, nice to see you again. Yeah, I've been doing some research on my own, Joe. So, let's talk about some of this trade balance here. Alright, so in my research, I see that Czech Republic, it's a good country. Going good. This trade balance right here, this is the difference between the imports and the exports, and they're exporting more than they need to. They're exporting a great amount, so they got a positive trade balance. So when I was looking at that, I noticed through the Economic Complexity Index, 9th most complex economy in the world, one of the fastest growing in the EU, and they're doing great. The best country in the Central European countries. So what do you think about all this here? What do you think is going on with, all of this trade balance stuff in the foreign exchange market?
Well, you know what I would give it to? I would definitely say that there's a lot of corporate investment in the Czech Republic. Now that's pretty good. Now another big part of this is that it's going to be able to produce long-term investment. And now if other long-term investors are investing in it, like large corporations, that probably means that we want to invest in it as individuals. Would you agree, Chris?
Yeah, I love to invest in the Czech Republic.
Yeah, and then another big thing is that their pricing is at a competitive level for their workforce. So the jobs that they're having, they're paying, and the rate that they're paying at is at a level that is competitive with other nations. But then, as we saw with the GDP per capita, is also consistent with paying them a level that is both fair but competitive.
Exactly, like right here, you see this? 08, what was going in 08? We're getting in the United States, what was happening there?
It's a crash.
Exactly, so who was buying from Czech? Who was buying from Czech? Who was doing all this buying right here? Who was doing that?
It's
US.
us, I'd imagine.
You know what Czech exports? They exports cars, computers, anything to do with technology. You know who uses technology?
United States. It's good stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
It's good stuff, Chris. Now, you know what I'd like to continue on to? Foreign exchange reserves. Now, what does this have to do with all of this? We talk about the foreign market. I feel like we can't talk about the foreign market without talking about the foreign exchange reserves. So now what this is all talking about is how the Czech Republic is then investing its money in other countries. Now, if we look at this, now this graph just goes from January to October of 2016, so it's short term, but they're sharply increasing the amount of money that they're investing, meaning that they're going to be investing in all of their money into other economies. Now, what does this mean? That they're going to complexify their economy and make it more advanced. Now, what I see as a positive here is if we look, they're also investing at a rate that's not just straight up and down, but it's got little bumps in the road. What's good about these little bumps is I feel like it means that the Czech Republic is checking itself. Now, that's a good thing, because what it's doing is as they invest in other nations, they're taking on those nations' debt, and it's able to then make more money off the investment rates and inflation and all that. Now, that's a positive, especially if we're looking back at all of the trade and stuff. If they're investing in other nations, they're having money come into the country, they're using that money to then make more money through exchanging it for other currencies and other
So you're
funds
telling
like
Chris
that.
and I that we're getting that money.
You
Czech
are.
Republic is getting that money.
Green.
You're definitely getting that green, I would definitely say so. Now, what's important about thinking about this is you gotta look at all the revenue streams we're talking about here. Imports versus exports, we're definitely importing more. Then we're investing that money again. I apologize.
No, it's
We're exporting more than we're importing. Then we're also investing that money. What does this mean for us? It means that things are going well and that we've got a lot of money in the future, so that way we can sustain this growth rather than growing just like if we were just selling one type of car and people all of a sudden just love that one car. Well, that'd be great at the time, but as soon as taste change, then it would go out of the way. The Czech Republic here, it's got a lot of stuff going on, so its growth is long-term growth. And now what does this mean to me? Go back to GDP per capita here. This isn't going to go down anytime soon.
No.
I see it as going up or staying at a nice stable level. This is important to remember here, because you got to think about this. If all of these factors are bringing in money, there's money coming into the economy, that means that they can support the people, which means that they're going to be able to have more jobs and more money to create.
Which people like fourth class bushing here can afford their Prius.
Of course. I always wanted a Prius, because you know what? It makes sense. You save money on gas, you save money on everything else, because basically no one wants to ever talk to you because you have a Prius. Now, if you look at this.
You know who makes Priuses?
Who, Chris?
Not Czech.
Not Czech.
No, not Czech. But they do make cars. And they,
That's where exports minus imports comes in, man.
exactly.
That's
But they
true.
don't make Prius.
That is true. Now, if we continue looking at this GDP per capita, as it increases, as we increase quality of life, it means that they're getting better jobs. So that way, they can continue to grow, and now not only grow at a rate that's super sharp up, but it's also doing other things, and these people can do different jobs. Maybe they can be people who work in this foreign exchange. Maybe they can be people who are working in trading. This is all different things. You can have different jobs here, and the more diversified your workforce, the more expanded and the better things are going to be going. Now that
Brings it right back to
here.
GDP.
Yeah, you know me.
GDP, we're going through this. Now, if we look at this, it's going down. Like I said, I don't see this as a long-term down. Look at all this other
So
positive.
you're telling me, Joe, it's not going to be long term. It's going to go back up eventually.
It'll go back up.
It's
Now,
gonna be a little bit more stable though, so we can go back
yeah,
up.
we don't want to do this, because that's what we saw in that 08 period. We want a nice slow up, and I see that happening very soon. And lastly, the last thing I want to talk about, we don't have a graph for this one, but we got the housing market. This is just a special Monday Night Live only thing we're talking about here. The housing market
This is low key.
it's increasing. They're buying, but they're not buying at a rate like in '08 where people are just buying houses they can't afford. They're buying affordable, sustainable homes, and that shows that people feel like for the long term that they can afford that home, afford the mortgage, and afford that way of life.
Nice.
That's a really nice thing to look
That's
at,
good.
and it's a positive thing for the Czech Republic. I want to see that, and I want to see people investing like that, because if the people of Czech are investing in homes, that means they're investing in Czech long term.
Right.
That's all good stuff. We want to be doing that, and if we're investors, we want to see that the people are investing in their own country, because if you're not willing to even invest any money in your own country, it likely means that things aren't going so well.
So tell me, Joe, would you invest?
Well, it's going to come down, it's going to be hard to think about.
With all of these things into play, we're talking GDP, GDP per capita, imports minus exports, exchange rates,
All of it. Would you
the
invest?
housing market,
I would.
everything.
I
You
would
would
invest. I'm seeing this as a strong indicator. Look at all this stuff that we have to indicate good investment, and it's kind of all there. It's all coming together, and I really like the fact that this is a stable economy, and I see this as a time to invest. This downward GDP right now, I think, is almost the perfect time to invest for an investor.
Hey, Joe.
Because
That's great, man.
it's true.
Yeah, that's great.
I love it.
I love it.
Ready to go?
And you know what that brings us to? Our commercial. A special word from our sponsor, Expo Markers. Who can't do without Expo Markers? That's what the whole presentation was about, Expo Markers. We use Expo Markers to build these graphs. Expo Markers are used by the Coast Guard Academy for young cadets to learn. Expo Markers, they're great. You can't do without them. Purchase them, buy them, do whatever.
Expo.
Expo. Thank you for tuning in to Monday Night Live. This was our season finale. I'm glad we got to have Joe Bushing, our special guest, for each show on here tonight. And a special thank you to my coworker Chris. It's been a great ride, and I just hope that you guys go invest your money. All of you watching, just go invest your money in the Czech Republic now. It's very smart. We talked about it. Everything here. Thank you.